is the second workshop that he's put together, and the first one was just loaded with helpful information, and the students that came really got so much out of it. So I want to thank you again for organizing this.
Thank you.
And then we have a fabulous panel that I'm going to let you introduce.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. And then, so you just want to say, give a quick hello?
I will just give a quick hello.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Thank you, John, for continued support of our entrepreneurs. And just thank you all for coming tonight. I know you're going to learn a lot. I know that there are going to be wonderful opportunities for you to network and really connect. And what I appreciate about our panel is that they can give you the inside scoop, some inside information about their own journey, their own challenges right here in Lowell. I know many of you will be planning to stay locally, so it's good to have these connections and this network. So thank you all for your willingness to do this. Your mentorship is key to our students, for our students, and for your success, everyone. And thank you, Stacy, for leading it, because you always create these wonderful opportunities and these openings for our students, so that you're able to apply what you're learning in your books and in your works to what's happening out there in Lowell. So thank you so much.
Okay, ready?
Go for it.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Provost. Thank you, gang. Nice to see everybody. Yeah, this is our second class. Generally runs about an hour and a half. Last year, we were so successful in what we were doing that the class went almost 2 hours, over 2 hours, I think. And then Stacy and I spoke a week or two later, and she's like, John, you got to come back. So I can't see you over there. She said, John, you got to come back. And we did it again. So we picked tonight to do it all over again. I appreciate the fact you guys are all here, because it's 6 o'clock on a Monday night. You could be somewhere else. There's a basketball game tonight, pretty big basketball game later on, so we'll try to get you out for that. But what I want to tell you, number one, is this is not us talking to you. This is you talking with us, asking questions of us. I don't know how many of you here are budding entrepreneurs, but we're going to find out, A, if you are, and B, what it is your businesses would like to become, where you are in your journey to start a new business, and we're going to tell you and show you some of the pitfalls that happen when you do start a new business, okay? My name is John Chemaly. I'm just going to introduce myself. I am the Senior Vice President at Pride Star EMS. I know that Stacy mentioned to you about Trinity EMS, which I owned for 31 years. Started in 1991, and I sold to my competitor. To be honest with you, maybe you don't know this, but he was half my size. So, not this way. I'm talking business-wise. He was half our size. So it can be done that a smaller company can buy a larger company, because that's what happened to me. And I've been there now for 3 years. I'm put on retainer, and my title really is Senior Vice President, Corporate Strategies. So we kind of develop certain things as we go along, how big we want our company to be, where we want our company to be, and exactly what it is we want to become as we roll on. So we started my company in '91 with 1 truck and 5 employees, 1 ambulance and 5 employees. When we sold in 1991, we had over 300 employees, and we were approaching $50 million in gross sales. So pretty sizable company, but I was tired. I was getting tired. And David is about 15, 18 years younger than me. David Daly is my boss. Hard for me to say that now, after 32 years of having no boss. But he's younger than me. He's more energetic than me, more enthusiastic than I am. I was like him then, but now I'm just this. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. We have 4 exciting and diverse panelists tonight. They want to talk about what is a true entrepreneur. And I want to ask you, what is an entrepreneur in your mind? Define entrepreneur to us. What's an entrepreneur?
Someone who takes their ideas and kind of puts it into a position where they can make something out of it with, being being an entrepreneur, finding jobs with something that they have a passion with, utilizing their skills in their jobs and finding new ways to work around things with their skills and stuff.
That's an excellent definition, but you left out one important thing to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you where you hit it on the head. And these guys will also talk about it as we go along. Profitability
Yeah.
and wealth gathering. Okay? One of the most important things about an entrepreneur, and they've all done it, is innovation. And you just said it. Building a company that innovates and brings new products to the market and builds their wealth and their profits from there is really, truly what an entrepreneurship is. So that's a great definition. There are certain things that we need an entrepreneur to do. He builds his or her business. He designs and builds, or she designs and builds a marketing plan. They maintain strategic relationships and strategic plan development. Are you guys talking about strategic planning in your class?
Not like specifically, but like making goals.
Okay. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is to give and take a conversation about understanding why face-to-face interaction, customers, and community are good for business and brand. You'll leave with an idea of how to build relationships in your area. To me, whether it be social media, whether it be marketing presence, my whole thing for Trinity in 30 years was personal relationships, handshakes, eye to eye. It's very, very important, I think. And today, and SuSu, who you'll meet in a minute, has a social media company. She builds and designs social media platforms, and I'd like her to talk a little bit about that. Also very important with eye to eye and face to face and handshake relationships. Let's get to it. I'd like to introduce you right now, SuSu Wong. SuSu, at the risk of being chivalrous, I'm going to let her go first. Please welcome SuSu. She is the founder and CEO of Tomo 360, a digital marketing agency that helps deliver effective marketing solutions and strategies. She does website design, social media presence, customized web strategies, etc. SuSu was previously an adjunct professor at UMass Lowell, which could be pretty good to do that. And she established Tomo 360 in 2012. So I'd like to introduce her to you and have her say a few words about who she is and her company.
Great. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for introducing me. What happens, I go first because I sat next to John. I have a marketing agency called Tomo 360. We're right in Lowell at the UMass Innovation Hub. And I started my business because I really wanted to have freedom to do what I wanted and to redesign my career. And I think it really does take a certain mindset to be an entrepreneur. For me, it was, to start it was more like out of, I just didn't know what I want to do. And I always wanted to start my own business. And it was really too scary to do that because, like, okay, where are you gonna get your paycheck? Who are you gonna work with, right? But I took the leap of faith and started my business since 2012. So it's been a while. And I basically just bootstrap it and start from scratch. And so we started offering very little service. I was by myself, now we are working with a lot of companies, a lot of nonprofits, and working with the state as well in all kinds of services. So I'll stop now.
Yeah. Thank you. How many entrepreneurs do we have here? That's fantastic. Seriously, what are you
The
doing?
whole class is hands up.
What are you doing, seriously?
So I do flowers.
Flowers?
Yeah, I do like bouquets.
Where do you do it?
I do it at home. I am transferred to my boyfriend has a barbershop, so I am running on his barbershop.
Mm-hmm. How's it going?
Good.
Really?
Very good. Yeah.
Good. We're going to try to find out how you're marketing yourself. Because I'd like to see how big you've grown, when you started, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, I make clothes.
Nice.
You made those clothes?
Yeah, I
Really?
do art. I do art. I sell my art. I make logos, T-shirt designs for people. It all started as a senior project in high school last year. I studied for a whole year how I can make money as an artist, and I graduated. And since then, I've been making a business out of it, making pretty good money while also working a part-time job, and I love it.
Right, good for you. Good for you. One more, because I want to introduce the rest of the gang.
I own an exclusive beauty bar in Haverhill, Mass. We own our own building, so we have a storefront that we've been open for about a year,
Mhm.
and a hairstylist for 11 years doing makeup for both in retail and in bridal. So then we bring the hair aspect into it. So we're looking to basically create a space that literally anyone can come to and receive whatever they need that is warm, fuzzy, welcoming. So it's a little more encompassing than just a typical hair salon.
Wow, good for you.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's good.
Is it?
I have a 6-chair salon. I own, there are 2 staff members that, we inherited when we bought the building, but primarily it runs off of just my income alone, which has been great, and I've still been able to pay for my, self and my livelihood outside of that. But we're looking to kind of expand upon that. It's not sustainable for it to just be me wearing all the hats all the time. So we're trying to grow in that aspect.
Do you rent any chairs?
We do rent chairs, but we're also looking for commission-based employees as well.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody in here in social media? Or any media at all? Looking at that? I want to introduce Teddy Panos. Teddy has been a mainstay and a household word here in the greater Lowell area for, I don't know, 30 years, Ted?
Too long.
Too long. I asked Teddy, I said, hey, what kind of advice would you give the people that we're talking to today? And in his bio, he wrote, stay the hell out of media and find a profession that actually pays. He's got some great ideas. He's built a beautiful company. And he wants to tell us more about it. He's an award-winning sports anchor at WNDS in New Hampshire. And his new company, Inside Lowell, is a 21st century multimedia company. It's he does blogging, he does all kinds of stuff. His 15-year career at WCAP Morning Drive Show ended just a few years ago when he did start Inside Lowell. So, Teddy, I want to talk a little bit about your company.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. I really can't offer much. These are the successful business people here, to be honest with you. I'm just a kid who grew up in his immigrant family's restaurant, and I got sick of the restaurant industry and decided to try to chase a dream, which was to be a sports reporter. And I got lucky through the years. I was able to work for 6 years at a TV station, as John mentioned, out of Derry, New Hampshire, but it was considered the Boston TV market. So I got to cover all the Boston sports teams. I was living my dream, getting paid very little, but loving every minute of it. And then eventually, when they realized that overweight, middle-aged Greek guys aren't what were wanted in the TV world, I bounced around, started doing some blogging for the Lowell Sun when that was a thing in 2005. I actually did their first sports blog. Then I started doing morning talk radio. And then I decided if I wanted to do something in media where I could kind of control my own destiny, much like SuSu. If I was going to try to make a living at something, I was going to control it myself. I was going to do it. So I launched a company that does a little bit of everything: website, social media, podcasting, all the kind of 21st century trappings of media. So I've done it all. But I'm going to pretty much stop talking because I'll rather answer any questions whenever you folks are ready. But all I'll stress is the importance of marketing and networking. I've been lucky to know each of these people up here, in a strange way, even though I just met Andrew, I think, for the first time. I don't think we've met before. Turns out I lived in one of his buildings for a couple of years, one of his properties. But, you know, Freddie I've known through a cousin of mine, and then we started a business relationship. He was my biggest client when I was also doing some sales at the radio station. SuSu I met through a nonprofit that her company 2 or 3 years in started doing the social media for our nonprofit, the Megan House Foundation. Quickly popped them into my parents' restaurant. They're doing the social media for that. And ironically, through SuSu, I've also had the fortune for what I do in my media world of meeting one of the most important people in the city. So I'll let SuSu tell you about that. But and John, I got to meet through my radio career at first, but also we found out we had common friendships and a former police chief and other local business people.
Yeah, exactly.
So networking, get yourself out there. If you want to be in business, get yourself out there, meet people, talk to people, never burn any bridges because you never know when you might need them. My big break came from a guy who I couldn't stand, and yet I was really nice to him when I made drinks for him in my family's restaurant. But my real expertise, all I can offer is if I can kind of give you advice on all forms of media, how to use them, whether you're starting your own business, whether you're in the medical profession, whatever your field is that you want to get into. I think you should understand the different forms of media that are out there and how you can use them to benefit either your business, your company if you have one, or your career if you're trying to develop one. So with that, I'll stop and you can hear from some more successful people.
Great. Our next panelist tonight is Andrew Chabin. Andrew is president and CEO, and you're going to recognize his name, Princeton Properties. He probably owns and operates thousands of apartments and homes and condos here in the city of Lowell, as well as around New England. So Andrew is an industry expert in multifamily rental housing. His bio reads, I have it here, his bio reads like a who's who in real estate. It's just unbelievable what he's done with his life. Very dynamic, you'll hear him speak tonight. Very type A, off the charts type A, which I love about him. Bankers and Tradesmen, a well-respected publication of mortgage and real estate transactions in the Northeast, named Andrew one of the 125 leaders making a difference in our region. So, Andrew, congratulations on that. His company, Princeton Property, has won several community achievement and excellence awards in the past few years. I will tell you, Mr. Chabin graduated cum laude from Tufts University. I, on the other hand, graduated from Holy Cross cum laude. So, I owe it to you, buddy. Good to see you. Andrew, can you say a couple words about yourself and your company, please?
I would be happy to. And thank you for having me, all of you. Thank you for having me here. I want to start by giving you what I would say is my definition of what entrepreneur or entrepreneurship might be, and that is to find a niche and fill it. And what you're doing with making art, if you can find a niche and you can fill it, and then to add John's tag to that with a risk-adjusted return. Okay? So you want to do something that you love. You want to be able to get up every day and and be motivated. Right? I watch people who are retired. This is the busiest retired guy you'll ever meet in your life. He's only semi-retired, and he's probably works 80 hours a week. Find something you love, but it has to be profitable. So find a niche and fill it with a risk-adjusted return. Princeton. Our latest project happens to be in Haverhill. It's the old DeBurrows site next door to Cedar Dip. Teddy was talking about networking. So make sure that you get my card before you leave, because we have 153 new units with roughly two people per unit. So there's 300 potential customers sitting around the corner from where you are. And so the idea of networking is to find some mutually beneficial piece. If I can give these, if I can give your information out to the people that we have, and they can benefit from that, and you can get something from that, that's terrific, right? That's how the world works. You always, if you pay it forward, it always comes back around. So that's my offer to you before you leave. Okay. Princeton Properties started out as a 24-unit apartment with a 24-unit apartment building across from Lowell General Hospital in 1973. We still own that building to this day. We're long-term holders of real estate. We don't believe in selling. We buy or build. We find a reason to buy or build that product, and then we refinance it and we hold it. Selling means you have to pay Uncle Sam and you pay taxes. That's something that's important to me, so we don't do that. We find a way to refinance, pull the money out through debt, which is tax deferred, and so the money we try and take out that way is a more tax efficient way of doing things. And so we're long-term holders of real estate. We own a building right around the corner from here, River Place Towers, right next door to the Songus Arena and across from Lowell General Hospital. And we own buildings that tall that are 22 stories. We own some that are 2 stories and everything in between. We are agnostic as to the type of real estate it is. We have some that have deep targeted affordability. We have some that are ultra luxury in the seaport of Boston, and everything in between. But if it's residential and if it makes money, it's for me. That's my story, John.
That's a beautiful story. 2 anecdotes. What's your name?
My name is Danielle. Danielle.
Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay. Adaptability. One of the things we're going to talk about later on, an entrepreneur has got to realize how to adapt to a certain situation. I asked you your name because you're Haverhill, and there's a piece of land that they're building on in Haverhill right now, which was, remember DeBurrow's restaurant?
Yeah.
And DeBurrow's function hall? Okay. Old man DeBurrow was a wonderful guy. He was a great guy. Okay, I think he dealt with his kids probably?
I did.
Okay. They took that piece of land, beautiful piece of land, and they built, I've been by there several times, beautiful, beautiful condos and apartments there. However, the adaptability comes with taking a piece of property that was kind of old, kind of dated, kind of, that's enough, I don't want to do this anymore, old man DeBurrow, and turned it into something vibrant right next door to Cedardale Athletic Center, which is unbelievable. But moreover, right down the street from those condos and apartments, it has exploded industry-wise, manufacturing-wise. There's all kinds of stuff down there, but they were smart enough to think, as far as thinking ahead and forward thinking, they were smart enough to think, okay, there's going to be thousands of jobs on this road in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I'm going to build a place for them to live. And he did that. So I think that's crazy good, crazy good. The other thing I want you to know is that I got married in 1977, and to my first wife. Only had 2, not like it's. I lived in that apartment across from Burnham Manor, on the bottom floor. My rent was $190 a month. Think about that. You guys have been around a long time. God bless you.
You find a niche,
Yep.
and as long as it keeps working, you have a business.
Yeah. You gave me a home for several years, so I moved to Nashville. But wonderful company, wonderful company. Next, we have, check this out. Okay? How often do you see these trucks? Everywhere? Everywhere. One of the reasons why I asked Fred to join us tonight was because I realized how fast his company was growing. I see 2 trucks, I see 3 trucks. His office on Stedman Street now must have 60, 70, 80 trucks in the parking lot. And I wanted to hear how he grew his business so successfully, and in the big scheme of things, so quickly. Plumbing, heating, HVAC, he's just exploded. It's a family business. He'll explain to you, 4 generations. It's just unbelievable. And we too have something in common. I started Trinity in 1991. We had a small garage on Perry Street in Lowell. And it was just my partner and I. And we had 1 truck. And when we went home that night, at night, we had to forward our phone calls. If someone called us, we forwarded the calls to our homes. He would take Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would take Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Sunday, if you needed an ambulance, you're screwed. But no, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. My point is, he started his company answering the phone at his house. SuSu started her company answering the phone at her house. You don't have to be big to be good, but you got to start somewhere. And he's got a great story. He's got a great story. He's a true entrepreneur and an avid philanthropist. He gives money many, many times over. And we can talk about that later. I'll show you a few things that he's involved in. But yeah, we had something in common. We started from nothing. These guys started from nothing. And now they're very, very successful entrepreneurs. So, Fred, say a few words, please.
So my family business is actually, it's sort of like a heritage in my family. There's a couple of businesses that mine was started by my father in my house. And growing up was in the garage and the phone rang in the kitchen. I'm a 4th generation plumber. There's another business that's been around for 4 generations that actually has my name on it. So it's confusing with my whole family, we're all plumbers. My dad's been retired for probably about 10 years, but we do plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical in and around the Lowell area. Grateful everybody's seen the trucks, thank you. It's really a customer service company that does trades. We do a ton of marketing. Can't grow without marketing. That's probably how I wound up here. It's a great business. We love it. Entrepreneurship to me is you're a problem solver. And in my business, that's really easy to think about because people don't call us unless they have problems. But you could be solving the problems that, you know, the trade is the reason that you're out there. But once you're running your business, there's a point where your problems will have to do with just the business and nothing to do with the business does, meaning the trade. So the problem solving bit is really the thing that I love about it. I always wanted to work for myself. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. Everybody in my family is in this business, which is super confusing. Because if you're looking for me, you will not get my company. Which is why I got so good at marketing, because it used to keep me up at night that every single person that I knew would call another company because they were looking for Fred Webster. That company's been around for over 100 years. So for me, it was how do I grow the company without having anybody know my name? So that's why marketing is so important. If you can grow a company without anybody knowing your name, to me, that's a really cool thing. And then get it to run where you're not involved with every single intricacy of it over time.
Great, great. Any questions so far? You're all good? Okay. We've discussed really what it is to be an entrepreneur, but what we haven't talked about is what are the tools you need to become an entrepreneur? How do you become an entrepreneur? What is it you need to do? Strategic planning is one of them. Strategic marketing is one of them. Business development skills is one of them. Have you discussed any of those in the class that you're talking about? And can somebody talk to me about what it is you're discussing?
I was saying, yes, but we call them different things, but yes.
Okay, talk to me about what you call them though. What do you call them?
Marketing strategy.
Yeah, market entrepreneurial opportunity, making sure your product's viable. And then we do a lot of marketing in the other class as well, so there's a mix of topics as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy it? The guy that has a sweatshirt, his t-shirt company, do you love it?
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
It's not work, right?
Well, it is partially.
Yeah.
When people commission me, they reach out, they say, I want this made. I go,
Yep.
yeah, I'll make it work, but it's also...
Can anybody tell me the difference between strategic marketing and business development? In your own head.
Your strategic marketing will have a goal. Your business development or a specific goal. Your business development is your future, like big picture project of what where your business is going. Versus your strategic marketing is for something specific, whether you're marketing a promotion, a specific incentive within your business.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Strategic marketing is bringing new products into an existing market. Where business development is bringing and marketing existing products in an existing market. I want to give you a couple examples of strategic marketing. Failures. Don't forget, you're bringing new products to an existing market. New Coke versus Classic Coke. Remember that? Okay, within a year, New Coke was in the toilet. They couldn't beat Classic Coke. Was it because of marketing? Was it because the product wasn't good? But it was a failure either way. The 1950s, the Ford Edsel. New product into an existing market. Complete failure. Was it because of the product? Was it because they didn't market it right? People just weren't buying it. We can discuss the whys and wherefores. My own personal story is we brought a new product to the town of Norwood back in the mid-90s, 98, 97. We brought a new product, our ambulance company, into Norwood. Problem, it was 51 miles away. Okay? I think part of the reason a company is successful is because your clients, and I think Fred and maybe even SuSu could tell you this, although you could do your product internationally if you wanted to. Fred would have a tough time at MillTown to be doing that, okay? But contiguousness is important. You guys know what contiguous is?
Consistency.
Sorry?
To be continuous, to be consistent.
No, contiguous.
Oh, contiguous.
Yeah. A contiguous situation is where, like for me, geography is important. Our 7 or 8 or 9 ambulance contracts are all contiguous. They're right next to each other. All the towns are right next to each other. So we decided to go out on a limb and we went to Norwood, 1998. We closed the company within 2 years. I went there one day, 51 miles. I took a drive down to check it out. And there were 2 and 3 year old kids running around the building. And there were dogs running around the building. And I asked them, what's this? What's going on? Oh, Sally and Vinny, they're out on a call. They told us to watch their kids. This is my ambulance company. So the problem was our management team wasn't big enough. We did not have the resources to do it. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be aware of certain things. When you're an entrepreneur, and Andrew mentioned this a few minutes ago, risk is all important. You are risking your homes, you're risking your bank accounts. It's personal risk that can hurt you if you're not careful. I will tell you though, well, do me a favor. Can you guys talk about a situation in your businesses where you had strategic marketing failures?
Sure. Princeton today is the largest taxpayer in the city of Lowell. But when we were growing the company, we had some very different thoughts. Today we're a one-trick pony. We do apartments, as I mentioned, for every different part of the socioeconomic stack. Much of what we did back then, we did a lot of furnished corporate apartments. Digital and Wong were big drivers of corporate business, well before Zoom, well before we had the issue in September of 2001, well before 9/11. All of the people that wanted to come to this area to be educated for digital and Wong stayed in our furnished corporate apartments. And we said, this is wonderful. These folks are going to be here for 60 days and longer. But what about the people who are here from 0 to 60? We've got all these marketing folks. Let's try a new product called extended stay hotels. The beautiful thing about apartments, if anybody knows anything about how they get developed, is you go through a variety of zoning boards, planning boards, conservation commissions, boards of health, etc. Very difficult, very complicated. And even though it doesn't overcrowd school systems, even though it doesn't generate the traffic, those are the buzzwords that go out there because people think that it's going to decrease the value of their single-family homes. Completely untrue, different class. We said, how are we going to find a way to get from, the people who are here just a few days up to 60 and not give them away to the hotels? We'll build extended stay hotels. Extended stay hotels pay towns and cities property tax, and they pay them rooms and meals tax. They don't generate any problems. They don't have any, there's no issues, no school kids being put in there. They don't generally have traffic jams. Every city and town loves them. The beauty of the apartment business is very difficult to break into. The downside of the extended stay hotel business is when you put one on one corner, one goes over here, here, and here very quickly. And all of a sudden, Route 3 was littered with extended stay hotels. We built one in Chelmsford. It did extraordinarily well in the first 2 years. In the third year, 3 others had opened on Route 3. And we were in the process of opening one in Andover. We took the one in Andover while it was in development and sold it. And same thing with the one in Chelmsford. As soon as that third year was over and we saw where the market was going, I said, this is not the business we want to be in. We want to be in a business that has barriers to entry. That business didn't have barriers to entry. I was very happy to let someone else take the people from 0 to 60, and we continued to service that furnished corporate market for a long period of time. We stuck to what we knew, ultimately. But that's I'll call it a failure. We got out with our skin, but that was not the market for us to be in because it didn't have the barriers to entry that was part of our let's call it our strategic or our business plan as opposed to the strategic marketing of that one new product.
Right. Right. Given that in strategic marketing, new products are brought to an existing market, SuSu, can you talk a little bit about what may have happened to you? Good and bad, failures and successes in strategic marketing?
Yeah, so when I started Tomo 360, I was looking into the senior market, and specifically in the assisted living facilities, because I thought that, well, this is a huge market, boomers are retiring, they need places to stay. And that's where when I started, was really like going through a lot of the senior senior meetings, and going after some of these companies. I went to so many of them, got a lot of free lunches and visited a lot of places. And it turned out that the larger ones are the ones that have like a corporate communications, right? They do all their marketing for each of their plants. And the smaller ones, they really didn't need social media or marketing because the generation they're trying to target are not on social media, right? So it's not only, after like 12 years when I'm actually working with HSPAN, which is the Elderly Services of Merrimack Valley, and that's because I kept up this connection with someone whom I met 13 years ago. We just kept, talking. Eventually, we're building a website for them.
Networking. She's talking networking. That's another important part of your businesses, networking.
Right. But that was a dud in terms of strategic marketing. But you find out, sooner or later that, well, okay, all right, you hit the pavement so many times and it's not working. It's probably time to move on to a different segment, which I did. Mm-hmm. But it was good to know.
Any questions so far? Nope. Fred?
Having a market share analysis for the business line that you're trying to go into to kind of get an idea of who's already in the space and where you can fill that void, I think is super helpful, so you're aiming in the right direction. In our business, we're starting to bump up against the ceiling in plumbing, and we were able to see that a few years back, where we actually do more HV heating. We do more heating and air conditioning now than plumbing, and our electrical business is really growing quite well also. But if I kept focusing on plumbing, effectively those marketing dollars inside of this area that we're already serving are wasted. So we're starting to shift away. The cross-sell, being able to, have one customer go to you for multiple things is obviously huge because you've already paid to acquire that customer once. So if you can go back and work with somebody that you've always worked with, the customer acquisition cost for it is what, a nil compared to going out and getting new folks. So I'd say the failure for us was probably not identifying the heating and air conditioning opportunity sooner. And the takeaway is use your market share analysis to make sure that you're climbing a ladder, leaning against the right wall.
Teddy mentioned in his bio, adaptability is an all-important quality of an entrepreneur. Teddy, can you give us an example of strategic marketing?
Oh, God.
Failure and maybe even success in your business.
Yeah, so, I mean, my career really is a testament to failures and being able to adapt to the changing world. I'll tell you, with my current venture, I actually launched it in October of 2022, and I put together an idea in my head and put a business plan in action. I figured out what I wanted to be, and that was like a media entity that provided news and information and sometimes entertainment, as I like to say, for Lowell and some of the surrounding communities. And probably less than a month into it, I realized, well, good news and bad. The good news is the demand for it was greater than I thought. I thought there was because of newspaper industry struggling and what was happening with the local newspaper and the radio industry struggling, what was happening with the local radio station. I thought there was an avenue for what I call 21st century media, and that's, you know, reaching people through social media, through digital, through, you know, through this thing, and it was wildly successful. I mean, my company was growing so fast that I had to quickly kind of adapt to that and make my product. But a lot of my content generation was going to be done by, I had about 12 people that said they were going to come in and help me do things and provide content for me on a regular basis, and they, within a month, 3 of them had contributed content, and they were pretty much gone. I didn't have the resources yet to pay anybody. I actually just hired my first employee a month ago, but so I had to kind of adapt, and I became, you know, I had to become what I was hoping everybody else would be, but I also had to, because of the demand, I had to become much more of a news and information site than I originally thought. I thought I'd be doing podcasting. Everybody else would be doing this writing. And instead I kind of, you know, had to change my direction. And now, instead of the same 10 to 12 people steadily providing content, I've opened it up to everybody. Just now, Stacy said to me, I want to send you an op-ed, an editorial on some news story. And I'm like, yeah, please do it. So I that's one way I adapted, was having lots of people, even people sometimes I've never met, contributing content, because a lot of people just like to write, people like to share stories. I had a kid that I've never met before, just graduated Lowell High, and he's in his first year of college, just submitted an op-ed for me about early education and how they need to expand that because it's better. So I'm using a lot of, I'm using a lot of different people now to do things. Ironically, the end product is better than I imagined, I think. But I'll tell you, let's come back in 5 years and talk, and I'll see if my business plan was a failure and the marketing of it collapsed. I'm still too early to really know, but I think I'm in a pretty good place.
Very good, very good. Any questions from that discussion a little bit? Yeah, great, thank you.
I would say, like, with these, like, roadblocks per se, at what point did you look at it and say, this is where I need to take a step back, without getting to that point of what you would say is failure, right? Like, for your example, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing all of this industry getting a little watered down with all of these, like, extended stays opening. At what point did you have to look at that and say, like, I need to stop fighting to bring myself into this and kind of focus on my niche, without it taking your business back down, if that makes sense? Because when you had broken into a new market, sometimes it can feel like you're taking a step back instead of taking a step forward.
Sure. I'll be happy to take a stab at that one. If you have the courage of your convictions that your product, you can differentiate your product from others, then I would say hang in there until you've been proven wrong, till your gut is proven wrong. Usually your gut is probably right. If you're feeling, just in the way you worded the question, that you think you're getting to a point where that product may not be able to be differentiated from others, you may be reaching that saturation point, right? And you may have what you have, okay? If your gut tells you, I would stay with it. How do you differentiate your business, your chairs, your location? Do you have parking? Do you have something that nobody else does as part of those services? I started by saying you find a niche and fill it. Where's the niche? Not the salon piece of it. That's a commodity. What do you do differently than your competitor? Why are you better? Why can you be more convenient? How can you be more cost effective? If you can answer those questions, stay with that new product line or enhance the existing product line. If you can't come up with those answers and you start to see it watered down, then your gut's probably telling you the right thing, which is you've reached the saturation point.
Or you hire SuSu. She puts together a marketing plan and a social media presence and a website design and everything for you. You want to take a stab at that for a second?
Yeah, sure. I think it's important to find where the opportunities are. In my world, right, it's very competitive. Right? And we don't really want people to come to us because they're on a budget and they're looking for a marketing agency to do X, right? We want them to be able to, we want them to come to us because they find us unique, right? It's never good to compete in price because you're gonna go down the rabbit hole and you're never gonna come out, right? You want to establish what are your values, like what interests you, how you differentiate yourself, right? Because it's a competitive world. Everybody's doing what you're doing, right? The difference is how are you better and why are you better, right? And where are the opportunities? We're a state contractor, so we work with the state, being a certified women minority, business. So we took advantage of that, and we're doing a lot of contracts with them. We work with the Barnstable, the county of Barnstable, and we just got a contract with Massachusetts Tour and Tourism, right? And we're competing with 100 vendors. We're on the Q&A session, and we beat out 98 of them, and then we're now we got the contract. But it really started from where did that opportunity come from, and how do you find them, right? So when you're saturated with your market share, you need to think outside the box and say, okay, how do I get ahead, right? And don't give up, because you may be going down one road, but you need to think outside. So I think the opportunities will come.
Certainly.
I just want to follow up on kind of what you're saying, but also what you were talking about plumbing and how you kind of were realizing that you hit a ceiling there. So I think what's important for a lot of our budding entrepreneurs to recognize is we talk about the importance of market research, understanding who your competition is and doing that kind of analysis. And so maybe you could talk about in the beginning, before you could actually afford maybe to pay someone to do the market analysis, or if you do it yourself still, but maybe give them some context about how do you figure out what your market share is. How did each of you do that in the beginning? I think that might be helpful.
So I think one of the best things that you can do is to go to whatever association it is that the business that you want to start or that you're already involved in has, whatever trade association there is. When I say trade, I don't mean it has to do with because I'm in trades, but
yeah.
And what you'll find there is, one, you'll find other people that are already doing the thing that you're trying to do. Two, there's two types of trade associations. There's one that's about how to run the business. It's the business part. And then there's the other one that's the trade. Maybe in my case, what codes are in plumbing or electrical or whatnot. And when you join these trade associations, you'll be able to tap into people that may, like you, that maybe specialize in the specific types of things that you need, whether it's marketing or whatever the case may be. But what you also can gain is information about metrics for how to run these businesses effectively that you could figure out, but like it would take you a long time. And that's a huge shortcut. And there is like rough data. I don't know it off the top of my head, like what the metrics are to do a market share analysis, but yes, I was able to do a rough one. At this point, I hire somebody and they do it as part of all the media that I buy. But 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. 10 years ago, we were just trying to figure it out. And we're still trying to figure it out, right? It's always changing. But I think the sooner that you can find associations that do what you do and visit other companies that are doing the thing that you do and get to, and preferably in a market that's adjacent to yours, that's not contiguous, because they're not going to want to help you. But if you can find somebody that's doing the same thing that you're doing, maybe it's in New Hampshire or a little bit further, that's like a catapult. That would be the thing to look for to get started, in my opinion.
I'm going to take it a step further. Associations that he's talking about, or Andrew might be involved in, get on the boards of those associations, okay? If you love your business and you're married to your business, don't you want to have an effect on your business? Don't you want to know what's going on in your business? Andrew's bio, again, with all due respect, Andrew's bio, he's on like 50 boards, okay? All relating to real estate, the rental marketing industry, et cetera, et cetera. If you're on the outside, I agree. If you're on the outside, at least you know what's going on. But again, community involvement, and if we get this far later on, I talk about philanthropy, one of which is volunteerism, getting on boards. That's a perfect example, Fred. Get to know your industry, to your point, so you know what the next thing is coming down the pike. Otherwise, you're reacting instead of acting. That's what's important.
Fred's example is absolutely perfect. 1993, I found myself at a conference in Chicago and ended up meeting three guys, one from Mishawaka, Indiana, one from Reno, Nevada, and the other from Mobile, Alabama. Had absolutely nothing in common geographically or anything else, but we were all in exactly the same business. And we became friends. And we became friends through the trade association, National Association of Home Builders. And to Fred's point, I became the president of our local Home Builders Association. We got those metrics. I also became president of the Apartment Association, which is located in Boston, but they provide all those metrics, right? So I was getting a national perspective from my friends, and we could talk about those things where Fred isn't going to walk down the street and talk to his plumbing competitors or his electrical competitors about what he's doing specifically right here. But I could talk to people in other parts of the country about price of lumber, codes, international codes, right? Where things were going, what marketing were they doing. There was this brand new thing that was happening called the internet, right? And how were we going to shift our business from print media, okay, or going on one of Teddy's shows years ago, to how are we going to drive where 91% of our business is now driven through the internet, okay? And all of those things are absolutely critical. You get the metrics, you get the networking, you also promote your business that way, right? You get to be known that much more. So one of these days, when your businesses start to go, right, and whoever's the successor to Teddy's morning radio show says, hey, I need you there, and things move exponentially from there.
True. I was the president of the Massachusetts Ambulance Association for 8 years. I still sit on the board as vice chair. The regulations, Medicare, Medicaid, all the stuff that's coming down the pike, I'm privy to before it even happens, because our national association, American Ambulance, not Mass, but American Ambulance, is sitting at the table with Congress. They're sitting at the table with all movers and shakers in the Senate and the legislature. So That's important. So, Stacy, great question. Yeah.
I'd love to hear from each of you, if you can remember, how you acquired your first customer.
When I got to Princeton, we already had several hundred apartment homes. So I can't answer for how the business got its first customer. But I can tell you how we've kept our first customer. Because we still have people living in those buildings who've been there, literally their grandparents lived there and they took over apartments from them, et cetera, et cetera. John mentioned something, up front, face-to-face. Much of our business has moved to the internet. Much of it now is all about how to skinny down the number of staff people we have, and your first interaction is now almost exclusively through AI. Okay? The computer that answers that, whether it's a phone call, text message, email, whatever it is, carrier pigeon message, they never have a bad day. They never answer incorrectly. They don't speak, they don't say anything wrong. Everything they do is pre-programmed. Computer's never wrong. That's one way to maintain the business. But to keep the business, you have to have that one-on-one. I still visit every single one of our sites 4 times a year. Now, we have 7,400 apartment homes. They're broken up, some as small as 24, some as high as 477. But I still go there 4 times a year. Because if you don't keep contact with the customer, if you don't know what those cars look like in the parking lot, if you don't see the clientele going in and out, if you don't make yourself available to them as the owner, then you have risen above to the level where you will lose contact with what's going on. So how do we get our first customer? I can't tell you. How do we keep our first customers and how do we keep that going? It's the old-fashioned, just as John started this conversation by saying, face-to-face, being available for discussions, and being human. You cannot rise above your customer. Your customer is the reason. When that phone rings, if that phone rings in your salon and you say, I've got 2 chairs going at the present time, I've got a customer in front of me that wants to talk to me, that phone is your lifeline. And you better take a deep breath. Our folks do not answer the phone on the first ring. They answer the phone after the second, before the third ring. And there's a whole science behind that. They take a deep breath, they remember that script, and they go into that call as if nothing else is going on. Or if that call has to be returned, there's a second script as to how to handle that. Okay? But the answer is human touch. Be authentic. Admit when you're wrong. Stand up for yourself when you're right. But be there. Be present. If you leave it to others, you will not succeed.
Unless COVID hits. Okay? That's when I feel as though part of my job was going out visiting nursing homes. Our biggest clients, 10 hospitals we had under contract. That was part of my business, is go and visit, sit with the CEOs, sit with the administrators, sit with the gatekeepers. One of the things I want to talk about, and I know there's so much to talk about, get to know the gatekeepers in the business you want to get into, okay? Unless it's COVID, then you're screwed, right? Then you have to deal with, and again, I'm going to use the word that Teddy used in his bio, that I love it, and you guys have used it again a couple times, adaptability. How do you keep in touch with your clients and your business if you can't see them? You can't shake their hands. You can't go eye to eye. How do you do it? SuSu, your business must have exploded during COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, all of a sudden, a lot of businesses decided they really need to be on the web. So we work a lot with restaurants because they didn't have a website. And all of a sudden people are not coming to their restaurants, right? So yeah, we did a lot of work. And also with the state and the city where they were funding the businesses to get digital. We did a lot of technical marketing. But I can't emphasize the importance to be in person. You do your social media, you have your LinkedIn, and you do your blog and all these things. It's important. But at the end of the day, people do business because they like who you are, right? Otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else. So I spend a lot of time networking. I'm in multiple chambers. I'm volunteering. I'm on boards. I mean, it's the human aspects that are important. And then when they meet you, then they check out your social media presence, right? So it's a little bit of old-fashioned, but with the new fashion, right? It's both, and it's important to be there. I can't emphasize meeting your customers, and I need to do it. You really have to talk to your customers, and then you're not too big for them. So make sure you have a good profile. You're constantly posting, but at the same time, go out and network and meet people.
I mean, I watch Teddy's show almost every day. Teddy, can you just explain what your show is and how these people can get into it? I mean,
Really
you talk
wanna do
about
that to
social
them?
media.
So I just do a daily podcast, and then I do a bunch of others, but since the January this year, I started doing a Monday through Friday podcast where we talk about, it's basically my radio talk show. It could be business, it could be politics, it could be, I don't know, whatever. Sometimes we just do goofy things. But something SuSu said about getting in front of people, the networking part of it. And I'll go back to my restaurant roots, which I still, by the way, help manage my folks' restaurant. But used to be a day when I first started managing my folks' restaurant where all your salespeople used to come in, your produce suppliers, your lamb suppliers, we have a Greek restaurant, your liquor suppliers. And then eventually, as companies started getting bought out by bigger and bigger fish, I'll give you a perfect example. Budweiser used to be headquartered out of Billerica, 15 minutes away from here. They sent a rep to us every week. And that poor guy, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, he'd get an order for us because we were a small business. But we created a relationship. And I started to feel bad telling him no, because I got to know him. He was great. He also gave me passes to Busch Gardens back in the day. They don't do that anymore, but now that it's $200 a day, but it was harder for me to say no because I actually liked the guy, and that went for all of our salespeople. And I said, you know what? Let me see if I can cobble together an order for you. Lowell Sun Advertising, George Hamill. He'd just sit there and have a cup of coffee with me, and he's like, I know you're not going to buy any advertising, but so it became harder to say no. Somebody calls you on the phone, I'm busy, right? I don't know if we need anything this week. I don't have time to check. We'll just skip it. Come in next week. So fast forward to when I was getting ready to launch my business. My customers are advertisers. I need to get people who own businesses to advertise with me, because when you're giving news and information, your customers are out there. If you give what they're looking for, they'll come to you. So, I've got 2.7 million people who've seen something I've done on Facebook, 476,000 people who've been to my website to read a story or watch a podcast. But my customer was a sponsor. So my first meeting was a Zoom meeting because they didn't have time for me, with a company that, well-known local bank. And I could just tell when we ended the Zoom meeting, I'm like, this is going to be a no. They said they'd get back to me, but I knew it was going to be a no. My next meeting was in person, and it was with a well-known local gas station oil company that also had part ownership in a brand new marijuana dispensary, cannabis dispensary. And so I got a 2-for-1 sit-down meeting. And I knew when I was leaving that day. And by the way, the meeting was set up by an acquaintance, Matt Lalatcher, you mentioned. But, again, that's where that networking comes in. I got a face-to-face meeting because of a networking connection. And then I was able to sell myself. It's harder to say no to anybody when you know, when you have that face-to-face interaction. So whatever your business is, never lose sight of your customer. They are the most important thing in whatever your industry is, but always be in front of them. Always be in front of them. It's harder to say no to you, but it's also the best way to get feedback, to see what are we doing wrong? How are we doing it wrong? You know, how can we do it better? So that's my lesson.
You know, he's being very, very nice about himself. Teddy, one thing you are, and your inside Lowell is relevant. Okay, we talk about adaptability. We talk about marketing in some stages, whether it be strategic marketing. I want to talk about some business development in a second, but your company has to be relevant. If you want to be successful, you have to draw people to you. And whether it's a niche, like Andrew's discovered his niche, or something like that, it's just his company he's relevant. People want to listen to him every morning because the guests he have, the people that he has on, they're really, again, the who's who in the Merrimack Valley. And I think that's important, Teddy. You're underselling yourself there when it comes to that. But we talked a long time about strategic selling or developing a product, new product in an existing market, and some of the failures that have happened. Business development, however, is creating and selling a product, an existing product, in an existing market. And many companies do it very, very well. I'll give you a few examples. Let me give you some taglines, and you tell me whose they are. I'm loving it. Who is it? McDonald's. Yep, McDonald's. Okay. How about this? You see that? What do you think of? We're in good hands.
Allstate? Oh.
Allstate.
You're in good hands.
Okay. How about, my mouth is watering. How about finger licking good? Kentucky Fried Chicken. How about this? Making your pipe dreams a reality. MillTown.
I know.
We had to change it to making your whole home happy. Market share.
My point is, these are companies in business development, they took an existing product and enhanced it in an existing market. And these are the most successful 40-year run of any tagline or slogan. I did some research on it, is McDonald's, I'm loving it. It's been their tagline for over 40 years. It's still relevant. It's still relevant. Because people still love McDonald's, and they probably always will, because whatever the hell they put in the food. But it works. It works. So, the other thing we want to talk about, relationship building. And we've talked about this before. My business grew up on concentric circles. And what I mean by that is, there's a target in the middle of the circle, like a target. The bullseye's in the middle. You want to get, what's your name?
Mike Machado.
Mike Machado? Are you an entrepreneur? Did you say you're an entrepreneur? What do you do?
I own a flooring company, Howard Floors. It was Machado Howard Flooring.
Okay, cool. Good for you. How's it going?
It's good. I've been in business since '99.
Good for you. Okay, well, you might want to listen a little bit, because these guys know more than I do. My personal story is concentric circles. I draw a target. The bullseye is who I have to get to. Who is the decision maker in that company? Okay. Okay. I need to find you if I want your business in the ambulance business. I need to find you. All right? Step one, and I mentioned it earlier, the gatekeeper. When Trinity started back in 1990, 91, I was looking for a phone number that people could remember. And I sat with a woman at New England Telephone at the time, if I remember that's the name of it, for probably an hour and a half on the phone. And she was tossing out numbers, and we were a Lowell company, so I needed a Lowell number. We ended up with, after an hour and a half, we ended up with 978-441-9999. How do you forget that number? You know, I had a gazillion stickers made up, people put it on their phone, but after a while I realized you didn't need my phone sticker. 441-9999. It was beautiful. I went, found her office, and I bought her a bouquet of flowers and I brought it to her office. Okay? To our point earlier tonight, interaction, face to face. Okay?
Just to let you know, we have about 15 minutes.
Okay. Romancing the gatekeeper is important. Every company has one, whether it be Daniela, you, whether it be you. Every company has a gatekeeper. You want to get that business? Get to know the gatekeeper. We started, Lowell General Hospital was our first account back in 1990. We visited every nurse's station in the hospital once, twice a week. Candy, soda. Hey, listen, I'm doing a Dunkin' Donuts one. God, I would love an iced coffee. So you bring 5 or 6 nurses at the nurse's station, and iced coffee. Next thing you know, Trinity. We need a name, Trinity. That's how it works. That's how it works. I'd like to hear your stories as well about relationship building. Concentric circles. The people that are around, get to know the people that are around your target. I got a great story when you're done. Go ahead.
Just before you guys answer, I just had a quick question, especially because you guys talked earlier about your relationship with the consumer as well as like within the business. If you're starting your interactions through AI or even like picking up the phone and then having a script, are you worried that you're losing that personal touch that you're working so hard to build?
Yes. Yes, I worry about it every day, but I'm losing the battle. The cost of labor versus the cost of AI is compelling. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody still has to write that script, and somebody has to continue to update that script with the AI piece, and it needs to be monitored pretty closely. I consider myself a bit of a throwback. I like the one-on-one interactions. We used to be open 7 days a week, and I went kicking and screaming away from not being open on Sundays. But there's a balance where labor is it's very difficult to find all the right people, and to find people who would work Saturdays and Sundays consistently, it was difficult. And we did it the old-fashioned way. We bribed them. We paid them way too much money. And we've now found the right balance, right? So the AI is obviously relatively new, so we're kind of crawling before we walk before we run with that. But we have one whole site in Salem, Massachusetts at this point that is 100% automated. So when you call, they walk you through, etc. A lot of it's data prompt as well, because people don't necessarily want to talk on the phone. So the ones that want to go on and they it's called Elise AI, they meet Elise and they walk through. And sometimes it can be verbal if they choose to be verbal. It can be text if they choose to just have text and respond back just like it was a person. In many, many cases, we're finding that those folks are just as effective, if not more, and you pay for the cost once. So do I worry? Yes, but it's coming.
I'm really glad you asked that question. The elephant in the room, I had this with me last year too. The elephant in the room is, where are we going with AI? It's too early to tell, I think, except situations like that are already developing. The problem is they're developing, they're not developed. And where do we fit in? Where do our businesses fit in that niche of AI? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. But Stacy, this certainly could be part of your class. We could do a class on this, or somebody that's way better than me on it. I'm just saying. This is the future. And it's the elephant in the room. We just don't know where it's gonna go. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Can I say something to follow up on that? When Andrew had mentioned the part about the scripts, so the scripts can be designed in a way so that you still make a human connection. And if you coach somebody or they follow that process that's in that script, whether it's AI or a person, I mean, for us, our company, it's somebody answering the phone. If they're on our website, it might be a chatbot, which isn't perfect. But then it gets to the person on the phone, and then the person on the phone is following a script. But the script is really designed to make a connection and show empathy and do that. And that's marketing. And nobody really considers that to be marketing, but it is, because that customer felt like kind of the personality of your company and the culture. And if you're a B2C company, you might not meet every single customer. If you're a B2B company, you're gonna be able to get in and find those gatekeepers. So it depends on who you're marketing to as well. But either way, that's marketing. The way that phone is answered, the chatbot, however that gets handled, is you can program it to not be so robotic.
The most important thing I think that Fred said is you need to be empathetic. These people are calling you because they have a reason. They're calling because they've got a power outage, they have a HVAC problem, whatever it may be. They're calling us because they're looking for housing, right? They're calling SuSu because they need something that she has. They need something, the ability to connect with a customer, okay? Teddy's a consumer of that. He needs advertisers to keep fueling his. The empathetic part goes both ways, right? Someone's calling you, they need you, you need to be there. That's why I said we do not answer the phone on the second, until the second, but not later than the third. You answer that, they take a deep breath, they go into the script. You have to be ready to meet them where they are. If they're having a crisis, they're having a problem, I'm sure your folks are empathetic and it brings them in. When someone has a problem and you fix their problem, someone needs housing and you fix that, they become an evangelist for what you do. Our biggest source of referrals, if you will, are from our existing residents. They like what they have, they tout our company, and it just grows, right? Bad news travels 7 times as fast as good news. Okay? So you do something wrong, it spreads like wildfire, and it's your reputation. You do something well. Teddy lived in one of our apartments years ago. He had a good experience. That's a good thing, considering he knows 3/4 of Lowell. That's important, right? Someone else in here actually said to me, they actually lived in an apartment with us as well years ago and had a good experience. That's critical. But if they have a bad experience, or if they're following up on a phone call, and they're in distress, that's the time when you can shine. Because when they know when they're down, if you can make them better, that's fine. One other thing that you were talking about is being relevant. I think it's important. My business is relevant because everyone's going home somewhere tonight, right? Might as well be in an apartment. Okay? Your business is relevant because something's going to break over and over again. Equipment only has a certain amount of life. People have to consume news. People have to outreach, etc. In your business, their hair doesn't stop growing, does it? Right? You found a way to be relevant in the very product that you've selected, as I have, as Fred has, as Teddy has, as SuSu has. If you're in the art business, if you're in the clothing, you better find a niche and make it continue to be relevant, right? It's easier to pick something if you love it, where it's consumable, where people have to have it. They have to have news every day. You can't live without knowing what's going on. You have to get your hair cut at some point, right?
The goal is, though, is Mr. Machado's floor company, is your stylist company. You need to differentiate yourself, if you can, from all the other noise that's around. That's key. It's great to be relevant, but how do you make people call you? What makes you different than him? Or the guy in the hallway? Quality of work, word of mouth. Word of mouth is unbelievable. Again, it's relationships with word of mouth. Years ago, I'm not going to mention any names, I'm not going to mention any towns. Concentric circles. Years ago, I was looking for a 911 contract really bad. My competitors had it for 10 years. I wanted it really badly. I was growing Trinity. I was friends with the decision maker's sister. Casual friends, nothing crazy. Restaurant that we went to, she would always be there when we were there. We'd buy her a drink or whatever. I find out she's in the hospital. Okay, not feeling well, had surgery. She's in the hospital. I send her flowers. I like sending flowers. I send her flowers.
I'm gonna leave you my business card.
That's right.
Give me a card. You got a card on you?
Good
So
stuff.
I have it.
Yeah, give me a card. All right, we'll talk in a minute. The contract goes out for RFP, request for proposal. Everybody submits. A competitor submits. The decision maker, looking over the contracts, looking over the proposals, talks to his sister about it. And she says, turn that off for a minute. I'm only kidding. She says to him, are you kidding me? You're not going to pick John Chemaly? Well, the other company's been here a while, and then, no. You're going to pick this guy. Empathy. He sent me flowers. Okay? Did that other guy send her flowers? No. What's my point? Relationships. Empathy. Relevance. Adaptability. There's so much more to this industry than just marketing. But, yeah, far away.
Do you think you learn how to make those relationships, or you're born with it? Because I know there's some people that are just natural, you know, they just talk and they're, you know, extrovert and they just make good connections. There's other people that are like, I don't want to talk that much, or they're more introverts.
Yeah.
So, but they still need to make that relationship with the customers or with the clients, right? So do you think that's something that we learn, or how can we learn that, right?
You get to SuSu.
Well, I'm naturally an extrovert. I would think that it would be hard to, you know, if you're an introvert. I think you practice, and it's always good to listen, right, to people, and then ask questions to start. And if you're really uncomfortable doing that, I would hire someone to do business. I just hire someone who talks a lot. And he's going to do a lot of calls, you know, but there's always a way, right? And after a while, you get used to it.
You can't be afraid.
Okay.
You can't be afraid to walk into a room with 50 people and walk out of there with 5 business cards and 3 meetings. You can't be afraid to do that. All it is just, my wife taught me a great saying, in order to be interesting, you have to be interested. Mm-hmm. So when you walk into a room of people that you don't know, you never met, you have to be interested in who they are and what they're doing. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass. You gotta have coffee with them. It's like, oh God, if I hear this story one more time. But when it comes down to profitability, when it comes down to wealth, when it comes down to that gentleman over there, innovation, you gotta talk to these people. They'll help you. People love to talk about themselves. They love it. You just, that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 tongue. Listen. It's an amazing skill. Can you teach it? Yeah, I don't think so. These guys here, it's how it comes natural to them. Some people are deathly afraid to walk into a room with 50 people.
Well,
Actually, so I'll push back. I'm an introvert. I'm one of the shyest people around. Once I get to know you, I won't shut up. Because of what I do, I've had to become an extrovert. But there was a time, if I walked into a room full of these people and I didn't know them, I couldn't carry a conversation. I'd sit quietly, I'd slink off into a corner, try to find one person I knew and hang out with them. but you eventually, you gotta just do it over and over again, like SuSu said. Just, the more you practice public speaking, the better you'll get at it. I've done things like this now hundreds of times, so it's easier. It's not easier, I don't even know if I'm relevant or interesting, but I feel it, I have a certain confidence, I carry myself with a certain confidence. You need to develop that. You just practice it over and over again. If you have to sit in front of a mirror and talk, record yourself on a phone. Do a sales pitch. If you've got a product, do a sales pitch. And just when you see yourself, hear yourself, you'll learn things, and then you'll hone your delivery and get to do it. And then if you absolutely can't do it, because there are some people that can't pull it off, right? Then that's when you're going to find somebody like SuSu to get your message out for you, or somebody like me to get your message out for you. But the more you do, most people can't do it. I don't know if it can be taught, other than you can teach yourself how to do it.
Because you're just doing it over and over.
Yeah, nobody knows you better than you do. So you find out how to sell yourself, and then you can find out how to sell your product.
I think the word is give me 1 second. I think the word is confidence. You have to have confidence in your ability to speak and be interested in other people. It always comes back to you.
Do you feel like your program took off more the more confidence you built in yourself? So for me personally, like when I had started this venture, there were a lot of roadblocks that I had personally, like kind of being, not necessarily shy, but like I joke that I'm like humble. I will go into a place, I'll talk about my business, but it's not my personality, it's not who I am. But that's something that I had to kind of break myself apart from and not be apologetic. But those putting yourself in a room and being confident in yourself, the things you had to kind of present even though you were shy, do you feel like when you kind of jumped those hurdles, did your ability to reach the market you were looking for and the success of that, did that grow?
So yeah, there came a point in my radio career where I stopped being shy, and I realized, because I was doing a talk show 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and we were talking about news and politics, and I never wanted to piss anybody off. I wanted everybody to like me, and nobody. And then there came a point where I realized, well, I said this, but he's mad at me. The next day I said that, and then I kind of like embraced it. But I think I developed a confidence in myself that I knew enough of what I was talking about that I could at least, there's no right or wrong in politics or news or a lot of things, but if you can passionately and intelligently argue your point with information, then people will at least respect that. But you have to, once you get comfortable with yourself, then you find out that you can kind of sell yourself, sell your product. But as John said, the best way to approach it, walk into a room and don't be the first person to speak. Just listen. Listen, take an interest in what the people around you are saying, even if you have to fake it. Sometimes you don't want to listen to that story the 50th time, but if you act like it's the first time you're hearing it, eventually you'll get an opportunity to sell yourself and your product.
If you only knew, believe me.
I think Fred was going to say something.
I did too. I thought you were going to say something there for a minute.
I was going to say that, like anything, you can get training or coaching, whether it's public speaking or what it sounds like was almost like a sales process, like an elevator pitch about your company. And what I'll tell you is, we're in 20,000 plus homes a year. I have some of the most highly skilled technicians you could ever find anywhere, but that does not mean all of them want to walk into a home and provide customer service. We didn't get into the trades for that. Newsflash, that was not the thing. We wanted to fix stuff, that was cool. So we have to coach. If I want to do a great job and grow a company, we have to coach our team on how to provide that level of customer service, because some people are super confident in fixing your furnace, but if they have to talk to you about what's going on day in and day out, they don't have that. Right? Not everyone has that first right away. So whether it's sales training or following a process to be able to meet with and have that elevator pitch with somebody, you can 100% get that figured out and kill it.
In our business, we're the only business that actually goes home when our customers come to our business, right? We're open during the day and they're usually working for the most part. And then We leave and they come home. So who sees our customers most of the time? Our maintenance techs. They're the ones who are in their home. They're the ones who get the opportunity to be the hero, to have that empathy, and to solve, find that problem and fix it. And that's the reflection they have on us. They got into the trades for a different reason. We have to make them, and they're our best salespeople today. They're great salespeople. They're great technicians. They're also great salespeople. And that their passion for what they do comes through. They're not great public speakers. That's not why you may not be a great public speaker. You may not want to go out and glad hand everybody. But if you're an entrepreneur and you have a passion for what it is you do, it will come out. It will come out. People will begin to sense that. If you're authentic and if your product is good, you don't have to be the sharpest talker in the world. You just have to be authentic and be out there. So don't let that stop.
Agreed.
If you love what you do, flowers, hair, t-shirts, floors, if you love what you do, it's easy to talk to people. Enthusiasm will just show through. That's why they're all so successful at what they do, because they love their work. They love what they're doing. And they make a difference every day. Every day. So, any other questions? You good? Okay.
We're running a little late, but this was fabulous.
I knew we would though. We did last year too. You guys have been wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
you guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much.